We'll call our public hearing to order at this time. We have quite a few items under our public hearing tonight. Item number 1 under public hearing is a zoning request from J.A. Hunt Properties. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Mayor. Public hearing zoning request from J.A. Hunt Properties to have the property known as MAP 0011A045, 961 Max Smith Road, current zoning RA, requested zoning R5 to construct new townhomes. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request? Please, sir, if you would, state your full name.
Hello, my name is Justin Hunt. Just wanting to have the property annexed and rezoned to build more townhomes. We're almost out of Sunset Cove townhome subdivision. Probably don't have 10 or 12 more houses to build in there, and kind of looking to go on that piece next. I think it's 5 acres total, and just one road in, one road out, townhome on each side.
Max Smith?
Yep.
How many will you build?
I haven't laid it out. There'll more than likely be about a dozen on each side of the road. 2 dozen total.
No,
Like
I
Steel
got
Road?
it.
Yeah, similar.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request? Mayor, it doesn't appear anyone else is present.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Item number 2 under public hearing tonight is annexation request from J.A. Hunt Properties. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an annexation request. Annex requested by J.A. Hunt Properties to have the property known as MAP 0011A045, 961 Max Smith Road, annexed into the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of the annexation of this property at 961 Max Smith Road? Mayor, doesn't appear anyone's present.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Item number 3 under public hearing is a zoning request from Daniel K. Sale. Mr. Stokes.
Yes, this is a zoning request from Daniel K. Sale to have the property known as MAP 0013A01800A, location on Battlefield Parkway, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. Current zoning C1, requested zoning C2 to allow automotive repair maintenance shop. Is there anyone that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition? Yes, sir. If you would come up, please, sir. If you would, state your full name when you get to the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Trawick Dixon. I have Joe Hudson's Collision Centers. We're a family-run body shop organization based out of Montgomery, Alabama. We've got about 180 locations. We are looking to expand into this market. What we've got close by, we closed on a shop in Chattanooga several months back. Have another shop we're buying that we'll announce this week that's about 30 minutes away, and so we're really trying to grow our footprint here. We're super excited about the opportunity to build a shop in Fort Oglethorpe if we can get approved. A little bit about our operation. One thing that's allowed us to grow the way we have is we've tried to kind of rethink the way people think your stereotypical body shop. I had a nice pretty packet from the advisory meeting. I was smart enough to leave in Birmingham, but we've got a really nice looking storefront. We call it, I'm happy to email it to Rick and he can show it to y'all, but really nice looking storefront. We call it our Zaxby's look. It's kind of the brown stucco on the front. We'll have 5 bays. It's what you call a double loaded building, bays on each side, somewhat of a drive through, but we don't drive all the way through it. We going to be about 10,000 square feet. As far as kind of the elephant in the room is always where your wrecked car's going to sit. So a couple things on that. Thing one is that we'll do whatever screening is required of us, whether that's chain link with mesh or whether it's wood privacy fencing. We prefer wood. We think it looks better and it actually lasts longer than the mesh. In addition to that, probably 90% of our business is driven from insurance companies, and those insurance contracts we have to turn cars out of the shop. And so we order parts, we schedule in repairs, we order parts several days before the car gets there, so there's not gonna be smashed up cars just sitting out front. If they are, something's not being run right at the shop. So, happy to field any questions you have, and that's it in a nutshell. Would love to, if you got any questions, I'm happy to answer.
What kind of volume do you guys do at a location?
I'd say on average, probably 200 to 300 grand a month. Probably a fair, it's not gonna start day one. This is like the one in Chattanooga, we bought an existing shop. Here, it's what we call a greenfield, just a term for building it from the ground up. I think you can say in the first year, if we're doing 150,000 a month, that's about where we need to be at the end of year one, and then from there, kind of pipe it up a little bit to get to that. I mean, we got shops that do more than that, but in a town the size of Fort Oglethorpe, I think you're looking 200 to 300 a month.
I'd like to see when you send it to Rick, I'd like to see the front elevation on it.
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to see kind of an idea of how you do that screening.
Yes, sir.
Like a visual representation.
We'll make sure that that's provided to everybody before the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Council have any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request from C1 to C2? Mayor, doesn't appear anyone else is present.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 4 in our public hearing tonight is a zoning request from First Baptist Church. Mr. Stoltz.
Thank you, sir. Zoning request from First Baptist Church here in Fort Oglethorpe to have the property known as map 0003F051, 003A132, and 0003A133, 2645 Lafayette Road, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, upgrading a sign in the overlay district. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this request for a sign variance? Yes, sir, if you would come up. If you'd go to the podium and state your name.
Mayor and Council, we're glad we have the opportunity to come before you tonight. My name is Nolan Richardson. For some of you that might not know me. And we propose to upgrade our signage at our church. And if you don't mind, I'm going to pass out.
I'll be glad to pass them down. Good night. Thank you.
Ronnie, would you mind getting another copy of this?
We can share.
We can share.
Everybody over here, so we're
We're
okay.
good. We're
We don't
good.
need them, we're good.
We're good.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
I have copies. So.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
It does look-
I wanted you to see what we're proposing to do with all these pictures. And if you look at Exhibit A, the first one, this is one of the signs that we have to have an exception made to your zoning ordinance. But we want to give you an idea of what the signs are going to look like. And we also provided a location, which is the southernmost entrance to our parking area. And we need this to identify the buildings in that particular area and parking spaces available. B is very similar. It's at the middle entrance to the campus, and we just want to put it there for information and directional purposes also. And then if you go on to C, item C, this is the one that's, we especially hope that we might get your permission through an exception to provide this new sign. If you'll notice, I pretty much identified what we propose to do. If you'll look at the inset, this is the present sign that we have there at the front of our campus. And as you can tell, it's starting to show its age. And so we are proposing a new sign. We are going to reuse the existing brick support for the sign that is there. The new sign will, of course, fit within those confines that we are showing here. The main exception is that we want to have a electronic message board in the black area underneath the sign there. It's going to have the blue background, and we also, due to the fact that internal lighted signs are included as a taboo, we wanted to place two spotlights, a spotlight on each side to light the sign. Of course, the main emphasis that we would like to have is for the electronic sign, which would have a one-word message. And we found out that we can propose that sign to go at any speed. And I know some signs here in the city, the message goes from left to right, and it goes so fast you can't even read it. But we propose to have a message that is readable and rotate up to give our times for our different services, events that may be coming up, and such as our Vacation Bible School this week, for any of you that might have children that might be interested.
I love it. Yes, sir.
And it starts at 6 o'clock. We also have special events if you go back to picture B, you will see a sign there, a temporary sign that says Alzheimer's. We provide space for people who want to use our facilities for meetings, and the Alzheimer's group is one of them. And another event that we've been having once a year, we provide a Thanksgiving lunch for people within our community that need help in some fashion. And so we provide quite a few meals every year for that event, and we try to emphasize all these special events that we have. So this is the main sign that we realize that it has some exceptions to the new ordinance. If you go to picture D, we have a present sign. The inset there is what it looks like at the present. We wanted to remove those letters and place a new sign with a blue background so that it would show up better and just be more of an upgrade that we consider. Also, picture E is the front of our worship center, as we have it noted here. The inset is the present picture that you see of what it looks like right now. So we just propose to more or less use the same message or certification for the message center, but we want to provide with a blue background, which will be, I think, easier read and be an upgrade for it. So the spotlights for this particular sign are already in place and being used at the present time. If you look at F, this is another sign that's existing. All the brickwork that's there presently will be reused, and just a new face put on it, similar to what you see in the picture there. It'll be a double-sided sign, and it already has spotlights on it to light it. The final picture is of the huge, tall standard sign, and of course we know that this is written out of the new ordinance, which is prohibited, but we propose just to give it a new look and just upgrade. You see the inset, what it looks like now. It's there at it'd be at the north entrance, and it's just off of Gilbert Drive there. You're probably real familiar with it. So this is a proposal that we are presenting to you for your consideration, and we hope approval. We, as a church, value our community very much. We see the real reason behind the new ordinance, because you want to see the environmental impact that it has on the city to improve our city in every aspect that we can. And I just wish we had something similar to this for Battlefield Parkway a few years ago. Yes. But I've been around the city and been living in the city for 60 years. So I've seen a lot of changes. And I remember as a boy driving through Fort Oglethorpe and seeing whack MPs on some of the guard posts out here.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, that's our presentation.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. That was excellent. I know a couple of people would be very proud of that.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this sign request in the overlay district? Yes, sir. If you would come up, state your name when you come to the podium.
My name is Ronnie Bourne. I'm a deacon at First Baptist here in Fort Oglethorpe, and I'm here to talk to y'all about our new signs. Fort Oglethorpe First Baptist is an important part of this community. It started in 1950 on Forest Avenue in a bus. And later on, it went to the fire hall. And later on, we got help the Rossville First Baptist and started it. And over the years, we've grown and grown and grown. And God has graced us with so many new people. Half the time, this council right here had people on it from our church: Raymond Hughes, James Goggins, Mark Fletcher, Eddie Stennett. People who cared about our city. If you go out here right now and turn left, then go down toward the Crystal, you will see the first thing you see is grass on there. We bought that property years ago. And at one time, there was two buildings right here on this little street down there. We chose to close those buildings down, and we tore them down. That's one thing. But we had to pay extra money because of the asbestos in the shingles. They had to put it in plastic, which was required by law. We put it in plastic, and then we buried it. And that was good. But we weren't finished yet. Later on, the insurance company closed down. Guess what? We bought it too, bought that property, and we fixed it up. But the biggie came up is when the service station closed down, because we had to dig up those tanks and pay extra to have dirt taken out and dirt pulled back in. Many people have come through our doors. People on this board right here, people, the citizens, and we care about our city. We care, and we want to do what? And we had all these new buildings, and it's nice. But you know what? The last thing we got to do was put the signs up. But guess what? That's where we got in trouble because of the new law, you know? And we need grace. We do. And, you know, Rhonda's husband taught my kids in baseball. She's 43 right now. And Eddie and Paula and y'all on the PRA field, we supported y'all. When they had the downtown, when they shut it off and had the car shows in there, We took water down there to help the people in progress. We're all part of this community, and we do feed people. And even today, every week, we got people from the trailer courts come out. Young America, we feed them. We are an important part. Right now, we don't have a great amount of people. In 1975, we had 960 people on our roads. And we reached a lot of people. Now, the city has changed. Unfortunately, the people got older, and we don't have as many, and we have more churches. But we're there every day reaching out. In 1992, there's some Boy Scouts come out here to the park and camping out. And guess what? We had a storm. And they called, so where are we going to put them? They called First Baptist. We put them in there. And when Black Creek down here run across the apartments, guess where they put them? In our gym. You know, so we have been there supporting the city, and we need the city to support us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo, Mr. Bourne, bravo.
You need to be a little bit more passionate.
I said, all y'all at the lecture, but I do the phone.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this sign variance? Mayor, doesn't appear anyone else is present.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 5 in our public hearing tonight is a zoning request from Dolly Milligan.
This is a zoning request from Dolly Milligan to have the property known as MAP 0003B03722 Tally Circle, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, rezoned from a current zoning of R2 to a C2 commercial development. Is there anyone that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this zoning? Yes, ma'am. If you would, go up, state your name. Yeah. If you would spell your name also, please, ma'am.
My name is Susan Hayes, Susanhays.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I am in opposition of this rezone. My family purchased their home there in the 60s. My brother, who is on his way here, he had to work. He still lives at 27 Tally Circle, which is across the street from the proposed rezone. Sorry, I've had some sinus stuff going on. Years ago, when my parents bought into the subdivision, there was a non-expirable covenant put on that subdivision that would not allow for commercial properties to go in there. There was also a comprehensive plan that was put in place for Battlefield Parkway that said no commercial properties could bleed into those subdivisions off of that commercial corridor. The two houses that are, well, I think you're doing the one, but it's actually two. They act as a buffer to keep the commercialism out of there. If they rezone this commercial at the last, when we went before the Board of Commissioners, they couldn't tell us what was going in there. Basically, no information that we got from them, except that there would be a privacy fence put up there. Excuse me, I'm getting dry. The privacy fence that's there when Kmart was built is in horrible shape. I don't know who would maintain it, but no one wants to look at that when they look out their front door or whatever. But anyway, the problem is there was a questionnaire that was filled out. This rezone was denied 20 plus years ago. Same properties, same rezone request. And the same issues that were brought up then are still prevalent today as far as why this property should not be rezoned. It has to do with the infrastructure. It has to do with the effect that it's going to have on the people that actually live within the subdivision. They don't want commercial property in there. I ask about spot zoning. Would this not be considered spot zoning because it is going into a long time established subdivision? They explained to me, and I understand, that because it adjoins commercial property on the backside, which is basically a sidewalk, that would not be considered spot zoning. Anything else in the subdivision would be. Well, the whole row of houses on that side of the road actually abut commercial property. So what would keep all of those houses, those residents, from applying for commercial rezone as well? You're gonna have a whole strip that could possibly be commercial property into this subdivision. And where would it stop? What kind of domino effect would it have on everyone else, not only that subdivision, but the one behind it, the one beside it? Where would it stop? So I request that this rezone be denied for, just to protect this subdivision. There's many people that live there that have lived there for generations. Here comes one of them now. One thing you can say about my brother, he's always late. I'm not gonna mention your name, Jeff. I do not have a copy of the letter that I submitted or the questionnaire that I submitted 20-plus years ago. I meant to call the city manager and try to get open records request to get that, but it addressed very key issues as to why this property should not be rezoned. At one time, it was required by the state in any incorporated or unincorporated areas be filled out to address issues that would impact the subdivision, the people in the subdivision, like I said, the infrastructure. We have no idea what they're wanting to put in there. It could be a 24-hour convenience store. It could be, we don't know. But it's right there leading into the subdivision. You've got the little narrow Hill Street. Would it be used as ingress egress, or that's going to put people through the subdivision because you can't turn left onto Battlefield Parkway off of Hill Street, which leads, excuse me, which leads off of Tally Circle. We just don't know enough about what they're actually wanting to do there because they didn't know, other than that one property was going to be zoned, or rezoned rather, excuse me, commercial, and the property next to that with a gentleman's handshake, which I'm not really sure how legal that would be, that the adjoining property would also be rezoned commercial because one lot would not be big enough for a commercial enterprise to go in that subdivision. So what you're going to have is a privacy fence with commercial property within a subdivision. So I'm sorry, I'm dry mouth, so I'm going to stop now. But I may have something else to say if we find out what their plans are. We have no idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning? Yes, sir. If you would, go to the podiums, state and spell your name, please.
Yes. Hello, Mayor. Hello, Council. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. My name's Mike Robertson. That's MikeRobertson. I'm with New Vision Realty. I'm just one of the sorry realtors around here, so don't throw stones at me. So anyway, I'm representing 22 Tally and 24 Tally, both of those properties. They did approach me and ask about the possibilities of maybe rezoning, but it would obviously, because of the lot size, as the young lady did mention, it would take both of those lots to do that. So we would need 22 and 24 to make that happen. She is correct in saying that we don't know exactly what's going to go in there yet because we don't even have the ability to even market it commercial or know what's there. So that's part of the reason of us being here tonight is I would like for you guys or the city to put some guidelines on prior to, instead of us just hopefully trying to have somebody come to us and say, hey, I'd like to put something there, and we don't have any kind of zoning or any kind of approval or any kind of guidelines. So we want to set some guidelines with you guys that also protects the neighborhood also. So this is the very last property that I can find on Battlefield Parkway that's residential that actually borders, and both of these do border Battlefield Parkway. And I think it's a possibility that it does fit the city's master plan for commercial. And also, if we look up Battlefield Parkway, we see other commercial that do border or neighborhoods such as Parkway Baptist, and we could just keep naming and going down through Battlefield Parkway and see that. So I do believe there is a precedent there for that. Our initial goal was a thought, there's something very similar to the Del Taco that went in over there in the parking lot, that it could be on something that size, correct? And I want to clarify and make this clear. Our goal is, and we do understand that we need to have approvals from Department of Transportation to make sure that we come off Battlefield Parkway into there. But we didn't want to try to fight that whole fight if we couldn't even get a conditional approval from you guys. So our hope is that you guys would make sure, or your guidelines would be to make sure that we do have to come off of Battlefield Parkway, and we do not use Hill Street at all. So that is not our goal or our objective, right? Just like the Captain D's that's right there on the other side of Hill Street. Very similar, the same as that there would be an entrance and an exit off of Battlefield Parkway.
Even if they did give you that, to address Ms. Hayes' point, how are people going to turn left back out onto the parkway? You know what I'm saying? Like, they would have to drive through the neighborhood to get more, or take a right and do a U-turn.
They would have to go right. They'd have to go right, period. And I think there's several other places that you'd have to go right also, correct? And so I just think they have to go right. No different than Hill Street says you can't turn left, you got to go right, correct? It'd be the same thing out of there. You can't turn left, you got to go right.
It's a good point, but the point that she's making is that that's a neighborhood road right now, and it's neighborhood traffic. So that's going to generate potentially a substantial amount of traffic from commercial folks into her neighborhood.
So agreed. There's no question in that. So, however, again, I would have to have the Department of Transportation for that approval. 22 Tally is currently unoccupied. It's an unoccupied home. 24 Tally, it is an occupied home. So obviously we would be asking that if you guys did rezone for that she's allowed to stay in 22 Tally until that, or 24 Tally until that property has sold, correct? Once it's sold and changed hands, obviously she has to reside out. We've even discussed, and I don't even know if this is an option, correct? If this is a possibility that obviously if it's on the market for a certain time and it does not sell and you guys are like, look, there's no commercial, it's automatically back to residential if that's the case. Don't even know if that's a possibility. However, we do see up and down Battlefield Parkway, there are several entrances that's at very busy sections and very busy areas and neighborhoods, so forth and so on. That does, but I certainly see where you're at. I think though, if you look at it, it's the only commercial property that does border Battlefield Parkway, or residential property that borders Battlefield Parkway. Everything else pretty much is commercial there. And obviously we would have to have, if we had an offer on the property, they would have to bring to you guys their building plans, where they're going to put, whether it's a concrete barrier wall, whether it's what kind of fencing is up to divide that from the neighborhood. You guys could go ahead and set some guidelines to approve that. And then there would obviously have to be engineering in there for any water runoff or whatever has to happen there. So that is, but obviously we're not there. Obviously we want to try to sell the property, and if it's not zone commercial, we can't even get that there. So I don't have an idea of what actually could go there. Could it be a Del Taco? Could it be something small? Obviously it's not a very big lot. So it would have to be a smaller footprint there to make that work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request? Yes, sir. If you would go up, state your name and spell it for us, please, sir.
Oh, it works. That's my congregation watching me over there, so I must behave. I'm Greg Smith. Do I really need to spell that? G-R-E-G-S-M-I-T-H.
Thanks, sir.
I can, if necessary, be the loudest person in the room. I promise not to be. I know I handed this to somebody the last trip around. I have one copy for someone who's curious.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, I appreciate your passion on this. we really shouldn't be asking the Realtor what's going to happen to this property, because if the Realtor makes the sale, he gets his commission, and they're not going to tell you what they're going to do because you're the Realtor, okay? I'm not looking to you for answers. You don't have those answers. That's not your fault. That's not for me. Okay. I am opposed to the proposed zoning changes on Tally Circle for either and or both properties. It's unnecessary. It's unsafe. It will ultimately be uneconomical for me, for the community, for Tally, and for the city. It's unnecessary. There are plenty of commercial-ready sites on 2A that don't involve destroying the integrity of my neighborhood. There are plenty. It's not necessary. Tally residents have restricted access to 2A from Hill Street already. So it seems disingenuous to suddenly approve of unlimited business traffic into a residential neighborhood. The neighborhood's been here since before I was born. My family's been in the neighborhood since 1970, maybe earlier. I don't quite know how long we've been in the house. And it's come to me, and I want to take care of it. It would be unsafe. We're a quiet suburban circle in a established residential development. And our streets weren't designed for business traffic. It's a shifting demographic of young families with small children. If you turn Tally Circle into a retail drive-through, as she stated, we don't even know. We don't know what that would be. If you turn it into a drive-through, traffic will be intolerable. It'll be full of impatient, distracted drivers. Inevitably, pedestrians, probably children, will be injured. It's uneconomical. Commercial zoning of our residential neighborhood will destroy the integrity of a stable community. Current homeowners, local shoppers, taxpayers, and voters will give way to a transient population. It will depress real property values, ultimately lowering assessment and tax revenues in favor of drive-by dollars. And come the next recession, our beautiful neighborhood will be just so much more junk property along a busy highway on the way to somewhere else. So again, I'm opposed to the proposed zoning changes on Tally Circle on the grounds that it would be unnecessary, it would be unsafe, and uneconomical process. I urge the council to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, very eloquently stated.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request? Yes, sir. Go ahead. State your full name and spell it when you reach the podium, please, sir.
Donald Holcomb, DONALDHOLCOMB. I am against the rezoning, and I walked around and got a petition signed for everybody against. I've lived there going right at 43 years. My granny and them bought that house back in '60. And, well, I mean, Mom got it, and now I have it. I've got grandkids that currently live with me, and yeah, if there's a restaurant or anything, and like everybody was saying, you're gonna pull in there and you're gonna take a left, or I mean correction, you're gonna take a right and you're gonna run right in the neighborhood because you can't take a left. there's no way, any other way out there. So, I mean, you're gonna bring more traffic through my neighborhood when we see enough of it now. And you're probably gonna double, maybe. But I had a lot that I was gonna say, and my mind's went pretty much blank on me. But this was my main thing right here. I mean, I was little when the first round of this went through, and my granny and my mom were wholeheartedly against it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess it's my turn to try to step up and try this. So I'm just gonna leave it at y'all's feet, and hopefully y'all go against it.
Sir, would you like to make your petition signatures a part of the record?
Yes, I would.
Okay, if
Thank
you would, you can leave them with me, and I'll make sure they're part of the minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request? Yes, sir, go ahead. If you would, state your full name and spell it when you get to the podium.
My name is Michael Hansen, Hansen. I live on 20 Tally Circle, which is on the corner of these two lots that are up in discussion. I've already got commercial property sitting in my backyard already with Captain D's, and it's already separated with a privacy fence. I don't mind, it doesn't really bother me too much. But when you put commercial property on those two lots, it's going to affect how my view of the neighborhood will look. I will have it on three sides instead of just one, front, side, and back. I don't want to live in a neighborhood where I have to look at a big wall or another fence of some kind of commercial property. I know it's on a corner lot and that's the way it is, but I just don't, I'm not comfortable with that kind of living. Again, with the traffic, I know we're going to get more traffic. More foot traffic is going to be coming through there. I know we don't know what's going to be there, what they're going to build, but I foresee that we will have more traffic. And anything that comes off the Battlefield Parkway into those two lots is also going to cause probably more accidents. Captain D's is notorious for getting wrecks. I think everybody knows that. They always have at least one wreck a month in that stretch of that area. So, and traffic just backs up. I foresee that may happen for whatever they may put in those two particular lots. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to look at, when I walk out my front door, I don't want to see a big wall in my neighborhood. I feel like I'll be tucked into the corner of the subdivision and nowhere to go. And it's not very appealing to me. It's not the reason why I moved here. My wife's been living in that house for over 50 years. That's her family's. They bought that house. That house has been there longer than any of those commercial properties along Highway 2. They were those houses, all in that neighborhood, have been there longer before Highway was even built. So I feel that we in that neighborhood should be subject to have to look at something that we didn't want in there in the first place. So I oppose the building of any kind of commercial property on that team, based on the way I feel about looking at it. I just don't want to walk out my front door and see commercial property. I don't think anybody does. So, thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Mr.
sir.
Hanson.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request? Yes, ma'am, if you would, approach the podium, state your name, spell it.
Okay, I'm B. Milligan. I guess you know how to spell that last name. And I grew up here in Fort Oglethorpe. My dad was actually on the council until the day he died. So I've been around for a long time. And, oh shoot, let me take that. And so, anyway, it's my mother-in-law's property. It's obviously not mine, but I've heard a lot of people, the complaints and stuff, And like they said, those are the only two houses that are left on Battlefield Parkway. And I know he said they didn't want to see a fence. Well, I see that, but what does she see? She lives, you see Battlefield Parkway. And on the front, you actually see motors being rebuilt, about a half a dozen cars that are broken down. That's what she saw otherwise across the street from her house, and just a bunch of stuff there. So either way she looked, it wasn't good. My husband, we live out in the country now, because he was so tired of hearing traffic that he did not want to be there anymore. He wasn't going to be living in his mother's house, and a lot of people do live in the house they lived in too. And you don't hear Captain D's or Del Taco. You don't hear that, because I've got to keep my hands from touching that thing. You don't hear that because the traffic on Battlefield Parkway is so loud. I was standing out there on the corner of the property looking at Captain D's. I'd see people get in and out of the cars. I never heard a door shut, them at the drive-in. There was no difference in the noise level. When he says they lived in a quiet neighborhood, that's far from it. I drove halfway down the street, I could still hear Battlefield Parkway. And there was always ambulances going, there's always something. They also had, years ago, my husband was about to go out to the shed right there, and a car ran through the yard. That's not a safe house to live in. To resell that as a house, it's going to be impossible, because you can't let your kids stay back in there in the backyard. You got to worry about them getting ran over by a car, even in their own yard, or be kidnapped or something in their own yard. Because, to sell that residential is, to me, almost impossible. They were there before Battlefield Parkway was built in the early 70s. So they took part of their land to build that. And there is no fence, there's nothing. One guy was bothered about the drainage. Well, she gets all the drainage, so he says, well, I don't want to get stopped at my house, which I totally get that. But whoever would build there would have to make sure he didn't get the drainage. My mother-in-law, she always got the drainage. She always got the noise. Let's talk about trash. Holy smoke, you know how much trash gets stocked in that yard from Battlefield Parkway? A lot. But the noise is just, and if you're in the backyard, you have to yell at each other, because, if the light stops, maybe, but you can go out right down here and see how noisy it is. It's outrageously noisy. So to me, it's not a quiet neighborhood. And if I turn right, I have to turn right to get out of there. I would just probably get in the turning lane and go in the other neighborhood. I wouldn't go through a neighborhood to get out there if I didn't live that way. People now, they don't go through that way, going from the other businesses on that road, because they don't live back there. The traffic to me would be about the same, because they don't go back there. If I lived on Howard Drive, I think that's by the park, then I would go that way. But I would go that way if I went to, it could even be a doctor's office. It doesn't even have to be a drive-in. In the first place, it can be anything. I have no idea what it's going to be. I don't know, back in the days, I would think all these neighbors wouldn't have liked Kmart next to them. I don't know how it got zoned so they could have Kmart all in their backyard. I think that would have been extra noise, because it went all the way down that street. I don't know. Or Captain D's. I don't know if those people had to get it okay to have a Captain D's there. You think they would have complained about that? I mean, I don't know. And then the fencing. I think it might help on noise, because you had a fence up like they do on the highways. The highways, they put those, of course, it's a big concrete fence. But it keeps down the noise, I would think. Nobody's house would be butted up against that fence, because it would be a street right there, besides that man on the end next to their property would have a fence there. He's already got one in the back. So that would be the only person I would worry about. Let me see what else I have on my notes. But I just think it's really strange that there's 2 houses left on Battlefield Parkway, and all the way down through, all of them, you got, well, all down through here. They have houses behind them. They did it already, got houses, it goes into a subdivision. Right here, y'all built that road, Andy Anderson's road there, and that puts people out into the neighborhood there. But I would assume it's probably y'all did. The only people that be using it are the people that live back there in the neighborhoods. Just like I think that's why they would use Hill Street, because they live back there. I don't think somebody be driving around all in there when they really want to go out here to Battlefield Parkway. I feel the same thing about that. And I guess they would have you have to turn right. I wouldn't know that for a fact that that's what they would make you do. But there's concrete and businesses everywhere. And I just can't see why it makes such a big difference. But I know it's their neighborhood. But, I lived behind Lakeview High School when I was growing up. Talking about they had to bomb it all the time to get the concrete out. That's just the price we paid because we lived there, and they decided to build Lakeview High School because that's on a concrete slab that it was about this much dirt, and the rest of it was rock. That's why they had that graveyard up there, and they built a monasteum or whatever you call it because they could not. They couldn't dig because it was on concrete underneath there, rock. But, so, everybody, that's why my husband moved out. It's in the city. It's very convenient to live there because everything's here. But if there was no businesses, then that they just don't want it right there. But everywhere else is businesses. Everyone else had to do it. From that side of the road to this side, they have put businesses in front of subdivisions. That's what they've done all the way. And I don't see why this is so much different from all the other places all the way up here. There's businesses, because over there on that graveyard is, right to get to the top of the hill there, Cedar Crest, I think. They got businesses right there. Behind it, they have houses everywhere. It's that way. And then all of a sudden, this doesn't want to be that way. I totally don't get it. It's not a good resellable house because you can't have children because you can't let them go out and play. You'd have to keep them in the house. You can't. The noise level is tremendously. It is a buffer house, but nobody wants to live there because it's too noisy. It is just noisy. You have to go out and scream. And go over there and go out in her backyard and see. It's unbearable. And the trash is unbearable. You have to pick it up all the time. There's no fencing there. There's no drainage there. The drainage is up high, about 4 foot on the sidewalk, which does her, well, she's dead, but it does her no good, or us now. But you have to go out there and pick trash up constantly. And I get that. It's the buffer house. Everybody says they want a buffer for their neighborhood, and that was the house to do it. And why it's that way? Because of Battlefield Parkway. They didn't build that house with Battlefield Parkway there. They built it and had no idea that was coming. And so I think y'all have voted all the way down Battlefield Parkway, not particularly y'all, but somebody's voted all the way down Battlefield Parkway to go ahead and put these things in front of people's houses. And I would like y'all to tell me what's the difference. Just asking. Nothing? Y'all don't? I'm just wondering.
Well,
what's the difference from what they did all the way through, talking about the church, talking about hair salon to Med Life or something? All that runs right into a subdivision.
yeah, but I think those were designed that way from the beginning.
What do you mean from the beginning?
There was never a home, as far as I know, in our neighborhood, there was never a home out onto the parkway there.
There was homes out through there. They took homes to build Battlefield Parkway. So, okay, so there was a subdivision on that Stewart Drive. Did that not go, that goes to the other side of Battlefield Parkway, and they just didn't build homes in between those two? I would think they would have.
Excuse me, Miss Milligan, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to
Oh,
interrupt
I actually
you.
can't talk to them.
You're here to state your opinion,
Yes.
not for discussion either with this council or with this audience.
Okay.
So if you want to proceed with your objection, then you go ahead, but you're not to
Oh,
address the
don't talk
audience
to them.
or the
I'm sorry.
council.
I shouldn't talk to them.
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, I just feel like, what do we do with the home if we don't do it commercial? That's another thing. It's not very desirable to live in. And I don't know. But, you know, I guess that's a price that we'll do something with the home. Or somebody will live in it that can't find anybody else that let them live in their home. I don't know. Because I wouldn't want my family there. I mean, like I say, my husband almost was killed just being out in the backyard. So, that's all. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
sorry I didn't do the rules well.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request? Yes, sir, if you would, go up, state your name and spell it for us, if you would.
My name is Jeff Green.
I'm sorry.
Jeff Green.
Green. Thank you, sir.
I've lived there since the early 60s, since I was a kid. We rode bikes on Battlefield Parkway when it was dirt. I remember when that car come through and hit their shed. Me and David sang grade together. And it was bad, but I also remember countless times when we was kids out there playing basketball, jumping on your trampoline. That was one incident in 60 years. And you talk about the trash, go back and look at that fence in behind Kmart where the trash builds up for a fence. You talk about the noise, put another whatever business in there and see the noise increase. We have a subdivision. David moved out when he's a young man, but we've lived here. Some of us has moved back. This is our home. And that's what we want it to stay. We want our equity in our home to at least be reasonable. The housing market's robust. You ain't gonna have no problem selling that house, I guarantee you. And they can put a fence up. There's already a sidewalk there. I think it's just a bad idea, and you see everybody showing up here. I mean, most people, they don't care anymore, but we care, and I hardly know anybody around here. But I guarantee I've known them, met some of them here, and we want to keep our neighborhood exactly what it is, our neighborhood. You know, we don't want Kmart there. You know, I didn't want Del Taco there. The noise is terrible. We don't want it increased. We don't want all that traffic coming through. And like they say, there's kids. Like he's got all them trucks there. I guarantee every one of them's tagged. We're just hardworking blue collar people, and we want our homes to at least have some equity for our hard work. So at least, even if we leave it to our children, we're going to leave them something, and not something that's going to decrease. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning request? Mayor, doesn't appear like anyone else is present.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 6 in our workshop tonight in public hearing is a zoning request from Mary L. Moss and Rebecca J. Swit.
Zoning request from Mary L. Moss and Rebecca J. Swit to have the property known as map 0003B03824 Tally Circle, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, current zoning R2, rezoned to a C2 commercial development. Mayor, these had to be considered individually in public hearings, but I would ask the council to consider these the comments from 22 Tally Circle also.
They're the same, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm good with it.
Anyone have any comment either for or against this rezoning? Mayor, doesn't appear like anyone else is present.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. This time we will call our regularly scheduled council meeting to order. If you would, Mr. Stoltz, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Earl Gray.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Derek Rogers.
Here.
Councilman Jim Childs.
Here.
Council Lady Rhonda James.
Here.
Councilman Craig Crawford.
Here.
Council Lady Paula Stinnett.
Here.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Let the record show we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. This time we'll do our invocation and our pledge. Miss James, if you would, please do the invocation. Miss Child will lead us in the pledge, please.
Let's pray. Lord, we come to you tonight. We thank you for all those present. We ask that you give us what we need to do as far as this council goes. We ask that you be with all the citizens of Fort Oglethorpe, and especially our children as they're returning back to school. We ask that you keep them safe as they come back and forth on their buses or whether they're walking. And Lord, we ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll set the agenda for tonight's meeting. Ms. Hune, do you have any modifications to the agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion to approve the agenda set.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Crawford, second by Mr. Childs. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item is the minutes. We have two different sets of readings. If members of council have had the opportunity to review the minutes from our June the 12th meeting and our special called meeting on June the 13th, I will entertain a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Childs, second by Mr. Crawford. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is appearances. Mr. Hickson. Let the record show Mr. Hickson is not present. Ms. Strange. Come on up.
Mr. Mayor, council, I know most of y'all know me. I'm Chris Clark. I worked for City of Fort Oglethorpe for about 14 years. I came here for moral support and see where I'm at now. I'm here on behalf on the Old Fort subdivision. Citizens, neighbors, and friends that live in our neighborhood. We've got some pretty serious issues and complaints that we want to ask the council for some help. I understand that some of our residents are getting older. You know, there's issue with some elderly folks not being able to take care of their properties. But I'm sure most of y'all live in Catoosa County and y'all got the same tax bill I got. I'm sure you did. But not a single one of us elected to live next to Bohannon's. Y'all seen that movie where they talk about seeing their Christmas lights from outer space? Y'all remember seeing that one? You can see my neighbor's backyard from Google Earth. And it's an absolute embarrassment to have anybody over to my house that I paid a lot of money for, pay extremely high taxes on, and looks like I live next to a junkyard. And I hate, y'all know me, I'm blunt. I'm not going to beat around the bush. But it's not just me. There's several of our neighbors here tonight, and all have the same issues. Derelict abandoned cars, abandoned campers, abandoned in-ground swimming pools that are sitting there festering with mosquitoes and who knows what else. Grass that hasn't been cut in forever. We've had our codes enforcement folks from the city come out a couple of times. They talk to them, and then we hear back that they can't do anything about it. They can merely suggest stuff. I don't remember that ever being an issue before. That's what codes enforcement folks are for. If we have ordinances, just like we have laws, they should be held accountable. And if they're violating the city ordinance with abandoned derelict vehicles in their yards, uncut, unkempt yards, weeds that are taller than me, and I'm sure, you know, I'm up here for all of our friends and neighbors, but it's the same thing. Y'all wouldn't want that next to you. You wouldn't. So what I would like to ask the council
is for these ordinance folks to be able to do their jobs. Issue citations, bring them before the council, bring them before a court, hold them accountable, and we want our neighborhood back. Okay? If you go down South Cedar Lane and turn on Park Forest, the very first thing you see is box trucks, maybe a couple of race cars in or out of the garage, and a yard full of cars. I know there's no law against it, but when you've got more cars parked in the grass, that's, you know, next thing you know, we're going to have Bigfoot and mud truck bogs in their yard, because that's what it looks like. It's ridiculous. The ruts in their driveway and their yard are that deep from the traffic driving on their grass. Going around the circle, come in the neighborhood, and it just gets worse. There's 3 houses on Cannon, 1604, 1615, 1705. I'll name them. Y'all can drive by and look at them yourself. Wildwood Trail, that's where I live. 1505, 1509, 1513, 1705. Take a real good look at 1705. It's a jungle. They've had a sink in their front yard for about 3 or 4 years, if I'm right, maybe longer. A sink. I know codes enforcement's been told about it. I know that they've gone out there. Please help us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Molly,
Yes, sir.
we have had people to go, and Rob, this might be a question for you. I understand it because I live there, and I know our hands are tied somewhat, but is there anything that we can do in the future?
I can answer that, but we're actually second reading of an ordinance that will assist tonight. Third reading will be next council meeting.
And there are a few things that we can maybe talk through the process a little bit to kind of maybe explain some things, because I understand that it is frustrating. So, Officer Clark, thank you for that presentation. I've spoken with Ms. Strange, and I've spoken with your wife, Teresa. Is that you there? Hi. Nice to meet you in person. I spoke with you 2 ladies last week regarding some of the issues on these properties, and we understand that it's frustrating. Code enforcement is tricky business because a lot of it is subjective as it comes down to the homeowner, but it is not subjective in terms of the ordinance. It's just our hands are a little bit tied in what we can and cannot do. Tonight's second reading of the vegetation ordinance is an example of how we're trying to address these things to try to get a handle on how high grass can be. So I'd like to ask Officer Garen Goddard, our code enforcement officer, to come up and maybe talk through the process to kind of explain that to the community at large, because I think that would be helpful, because when the city does get involved, it does seem to take a little bit longer, and I understand why that's frustrating as well. We do have to follow the ordinance in terms of how many days notice we give them and all that stuff. So Officer Goddard, if you wouldn't mind kind of walking through that process for the group at large, that might be helpful.
No problem, Ms. Molly. A lot of first and foremost, when dealing with some of the complaints, I go to the house, try to see what kind of area of what the problem is, whether it's enforceable. Some of these people do have come on hard times. There are some that are just lazy. I have one that is a cancer patient I'm trying to work with and give her time. I have another one that's can't afford a new battery for a lawnmower. Some of these people we generally do try to give a little bit of time. Once we've gotten to a point where we realize we're not getting anywhere, we send a 10-day notice. After the 10-day notice, if nothing has been done, then we have to take it to the courts. Generally, that's 30 days. I'm actually have a case right now that's been going on for several months. We've just now gotten through the hearing with the judge, and the judge, to our law, he has to give them an additional time to the next court date until it can be resolved or they be fined. A lot of these do take time, and it's unfortunate, but there are some circumstances where I do have to try to work with some of the citizens and try to help them out because they're already going through a financial or health burden.
And so I think part of this is that we're following the laws, but we also try to practice a little bit of humanity as well, because everybody's situation is different. Now, there are going to be people who take advantage of it and people who don't and people who are just trying really hard, but ultimately it does come down to a judicial process, and once it goes through that judicial process, it becomes a little bit longer drawn out, and it is up to the judge at that point what we are able to do and what we are able to enforce. But Officer Goddard is out there every day listening to these complaints, so please don't stop letting us know what you're experiencing out there, because if you don't tell us, we can't be everywhere at once. We're happy to know what those things are. And I know it doesn't happen fast enough. I completely understand that. And we're doing the best we can to address those concerns, but once it does transition over to the judicial system, it does lengthen the time it takes. But it is a process that we're working through, and we have seen some improvements in this neighborhood. Unfortunately, that's the thing about grass, it doesn't stop. So the minute that it gets cut, it starts getting bad again. But Officer Goddard has been out in that neighborhood for many of the locations that you all reported to us, and he had already been there before we had gotten those reports, and some of those houses had actually mowed their yards or were working through the process and showing some signs of progress. So I hope that helps to explain it a little bit. We are, like Robbie said, we are addressing the vegetation ordinance tonight with our second reading, and that will sort of help us get a better handle on how we can police grass height. You want to talk a little bit about that ordinance, the ins and outs of it, since you had a hand in drafting it?
So when this ordinance gets passed, the first time is a warning, anything over 8 inches. After the second notice, you'll have received one more warning within a year period. After that, it's an automatic citation any point after that. However, upon receiving the first and second warning, if the grass hasn't been cut within 5 days, then it is a citable offense.
Yes.
We have another issue too that somehow needs to be addressed. Is if somebody don't live in a house for 5 years, I mean, we've got 3 and fixing to have 4 with Barbara done. And it's becoming a hassle. And it is an hassle. So, and legally, I know, I mean, I have compassion for people too, but these houses have been empty. One of them's been empty 25 years. They use it as an office. Comes once a month. So.
We can certainly look into an ordinance about what can be done about abandoned property.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Goddard.
Thank you, Chris.
Anyone have anything else? All righty, we'll move on to ordinances. Ordinance number 1 is the second reading of ordinance number 2023-17. Mr. Stokes.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 2023-17. It is hereby ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe an ordinance to amend the Fort Oglethorpe Code of Ordinances, Chapter 34, Environmental, Article 3, Nuisance by addition of Section 3484, Vegetation Control, to regulate the growth of vegetation on public and private property within the city, to provide for the provisions therein as authorized by state law, to provide for the modification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances or parts thereof, to provide for an adoption effective date, and for all other purposes allowed by law. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Item number 2 is the second reading of ordinance number 2023-18. Mr. Stokes.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 2023-18. It is hereby ordained by the governing authority of the city of Fort Oglethorpe an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Chapter 50, Historic Preservation, Section 52 through Section 57, so as to incorporate the duties, powers, and responsibilities of the City of Fort Oglethorpe Historic Preservation Commission into the City of Fort Oglethorpe Planning Advisory Board, to amend the City of Fort Oglethorpe Code of Ordinances, Uniform Developmental Code, Appendix A, Chapter 8, Article 1, Creation of Advisory Board to reflect the incorporation of the powers and duties of the Historic Preservation Commission into the Planning Advisory Board, to increase the membership of the Planning Advisory Board with the members who have demonstrated special interest, experience, or education in history, architecture, and preservation of historic resources, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to establish an effective date, and for all other related purposes. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 3, first reading of ordinance number 2023-19. Mr. Stoltz.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 2023-19, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, a zoning amendment ordinance of tax parcel number 0011A045, 961 Max Smith Road, Rossville, Georgia, requested by the owner J.A. Hunt Properties, LLC, so as to amend the zoning of said property from a RA zoning to an R5 zoning, to amend the official zoning map for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, to repeal conflicting ordinances and other related purposes. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 4, first reading of ordinance number 2023-20. Mr. Stoltz.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 2023-20, be it ordained by the mayor and council for the city of Fort Oglethorpe for the annexation of tax parcel A zoning amendment ordinance, tax parcel number 0011A045, 961 Max Smith Road, Rossville, Georgia, 30741, requested by owner J.A. Hunt Properties, so as to annex said property into the corporate limits of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, to change the corporate limits of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, to amend the official zoning map for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, to repeal conflicting ordinances and other related purposes. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 5, first reading of ordinance number 2023-21. Mr. Stoltz.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 2023-21, be it ordained by the mayor and council for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, a zoning amendment ordinance of tax parcel number 0013A01800A, Crutchfield subdivision, Lot 3, Battlefield Parkway, requested by the owners Daniel Sale, so as to amend the zoning of said property from a C1 zoning to a C2 zoning, to amend the official zoning map for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, to repeal conflicting ordinances and other related purposes. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 6, first reading of ordinance number 2023-22. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2023-22, be it ordained by the mayor and council for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, a zoning amendment ordinance of tax parcel number 003F051, 0003A132, and 0003A133, 2645 Lafayette Road, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, requested by the owner, First Baptist Church, so as to amend the zoning of said property from a C1 to a C1 overlay district, to amend the official zoning map for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, to repeal conflicting ordinances and other related purposes. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 7, first reading of ordinance number 2023-23. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2023-23, be it ordained by the mayor and council for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, a zoning amendment ordinance of tax parcel number 0003B037, 22 Tally Circle, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, requested by the owner Dolly Milligan, so as to amend the zoning of said property from an R2 zoning to a C2 zoning, to amend the official zoning map for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, to repeal conflicting ordinances and other related purposes. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 8, first reading of ordinance number 2023-24. Mr. Stoltz.
Sorry, Mayor, I put too many up there.
Well, we got a pile of them there, buddy.
Ordinance number 2023-24, be it ordained by the mayor and council for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, a zoning amendment ordinance of tax parcel number 0003B038, 24 Tally Circle, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, 30742, requested by the owners Mary L. Ross and Rebecca J. Swint, so as to amend the zoning of said property from an R2 zoning to a C2 zoning, to amend the official zoning map for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, to repeal conflicting ordinances and other related purposes. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 9, first reading of ordinance number 2023-25. Mr. Stoltz.
Oh, yes, sir. Ordinance number 2023-25, an ordinance to amend the 2023 fiscal year budget for the city of Fort Oglethorpe. It is hereby ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe an ordinance to amend the 2023 fiscal year budget to provide for the provisions therein as authorized by state law, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances or parts thereof, to provide for an adoption effective date, and for all other purposes allowed by law. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Next item on the agenda is new business. Item number 1 is recommendation to approve the special event permit to hold the Kiwanis 5K run. I have noticed that Mr. Bowers and Mr. Shrum is not here to present tonight. It will be the same event as last year.
That's correct.
Doing what the council wants to, we can either vote for or against tonight, or we can table it till the next council meeting, whatever y'all are comfortable with.
Just one aside, it is the same event, except for that there is a possible change in route, which does not materially affect the application at all. It's just if we are under substantial construction in the park with the pickleball courts, there would be a small modification to the route, but that doesn't change the resources needed to carry out the event.
And I'm going to recuse myself from voting since I'm involved with that, handling that race.
That's fine, ma'am. So everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 2, recommendation to approve contract modification number 3 for construction services for the direct connection Highway 41 Pilgrim Circle and Cobb Parkway sewer projects. Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the third and final contract modification for the direct connection Highway 41 Pilgrim Circle and Cobb Parkway sewer projects with Tally Construction. This is summary change order in the decreased amount of $34,572, which brings the final contract modification amount, including this deduction, to $2,468,879.99. As you'll recall, this was for sewer line replacement all along Highway 41, up in the direct connection area, Pilgrim Circle, as well as Cobb Parkway.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Crawford, second by Ms. James. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 3, recommendation to purchase materials to construct a multi-purpose walkway. Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A multi-purpose walkway was needed and suggested at from Stewart Road to Stovall Street along the Black Branch Creek to sort of hook up with our sidewalk out in front of City Hall here. This will make this a much safer area. It's about 400 feet by 10 feet of a multi-purpose walkway. In the estimated amount of $35,000 for the materials. If approved, the Public Works Department will prepare the ground and will solicit quotes from various contractors for the materials to complete the project, which will include rock, concrete, saw cutting, signage, and warning devices for a crosswalk that will go in at that place. This will take approximately 6 weeks to complete once the materials have been obtained. This will make that area much safer. We've had a lot of people in that neighborhood who need a safe passage to cross, and they don't really have one yet. It'll make it the connectivity will be a lot better in that neighborhood. And if approved, it again is in the estimated amount of $35,000 coming out of the general fund.
I have a motion to approve.
So moved, sir.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stennett and second by Mr. Childs. Any discussion?
When they put that, the crosswalk area, it'll be considered kind of where the where the disc golfers go across from hole
Yes,
3 to hole 4,
that's correct.
or hole 2 to hole 3.
It's
There's-
close. It'll be back this way just a little bit to keep it from being right in the middle
that curve.
Okay.
of the curve.
And there
So there's
will
a
be-
lot of traffic
yeah,
with
There'll be
those, 'cause
warning
they're
lights and
using it a lot.
signage too, so hopefully it'll slow people down on that curve
Yeah.
as well.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 4, recommendation to install an automatic irrigation system at the ball fields on Barnhart Circle. Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In the 2023 budget year, it was suggested that we incorporate an irrigation system into that field. We've done a lot of work to our fields and making them better and more hospitable, and this is just another step in that direction. This irrigation system will be installed around the 5 ball fields at Barnhart Circle. The invitation to bid was advertised and 3 bids were received. Rainman Irrigation submitted the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $58,260. They will furnish all the materials and will install the system. If approved, the project will begin next Thursday, July 20th, and would be completed on or before September the 4th, before the baseball and softball seasons begin in the fall. If approved, it would come out of SPOS funding.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Childs, second by Mr. Rogers. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 6, recommendation to approve an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Ringo for the provision of sewer services to the planned development at Heritage Point subdivision. Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you all know, we cut our county in half in terms of sewer services. Half of the county receives sewer services from the city of Port Oglethorpe, the other half receives it from Ringgold. There is a planned development that sort of reaches both of our service areas, but because of the topography of the area, that planned development, Heritage Point subdivision, will actually flow into Ringgold service area, though part of it does lie in ours, through a gravity sewer line. Ringgold actually has the same item on their agenda tonight. We're just trying to preserve for the record for future generations that we all agreed that Ringgold would take on that service, and it would leave our service area. We would not receive payment for that service area for that subdivision. It will go to Ringgold, and they will receive the treatment costs from the city of Chattanooga.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Third.
Go ahead.
Motion by Ms. James, second by Ms. Stennett. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. City manager's report. Ms. Hughes.
Thank you. First and foremost, I would just like to say thank you to the Recreation and Leisure Services staff, and especially Roger Costner, and everybody who helped with the city swim meet this past weekend. It was a really great time. It was really fun to see such lively activity out at our pool, to see so many kids and parents and families and grandparents having a good time out there at our beautiful pool. So just thank you to all the staff for pulling it off, and thank you for the GRPA for letting us host you. It was a good time. Constant reminder, Stable 41 Farmers Market, Thursdays from 3 to 6 and Sundays from 1 to 4. Come out, buy your produce, buy some crafts, have a good time. And we also have our Food Truck Fridays for the next 2 months on the last Friday of both July and August at 5 o'clock. The Honey Cut World Series is starting this Friday. Saturday. Tony's looking at me shaking his head back there. Starting this Saturday, July 15th and 16th, with a possible game or two on Monday the 17th if it goes that long, out on Barnhart Circle. Would like everybody to get ready for National Night Out on Tuesday, August the 1st. This will be our second year having National Night Out at Gilbert Stevenson Park from 5 to 8. We have so many community partners and vendors and food trucks. Please come out and enjoy our beautiful park and a bunch of fun activities and get to know our police department. And finally, just a plug for Labor Day at the Post. We're very excited about Labor Day at the Post, September the 4th. It's an all-day event. There will be music and food and vendors and kids activities that will be free to the public. And we're having a concert with Roger Allen Wade, James Rogers, Josh Driver and Full Circle, and Confederate Railroad. We're very excited about this event. We can't wait to welcome you all out there and get this party started again. So that's all I have.
Barbecue cook-off, right?
Oh, we're working on it.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Next item, mayor and council comments. Chief, come up here a minute. I'm gonna let him have my time. I'm gonna let him promote this event. He's the one who got it started. So tell him all about it.
Talking about National Night Out.
Yeah.
Well, National Night Out last year, it was our first year inauguration, and we were hoping to get maybe 200 or 300 people to come out and interact with the police department and other law enforcement. We saw over 1,000 people come out. We offered free hot dogs and drinks and chips, and officers were playing games. I even jumped in the dunk tank. I think I'll do that again this year and cool off a little bit. But we had a great time, and I invite everybody from the community to please come out and join us again August 1st from 5:30 to 8:30 Gilbert Stevenson Park. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Childs.
Just get ready for the kids. I think they start in about 4 weeks, so slow down, and I really appreciate everybody coming out. A lot going on in the city, and we have issues, but they can be worked out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Child. Mr. Crawford.
Yeah, just echo what he said. Thank you guys for coming out. If y'all don't come out and tell us, we don't know a lot of times what needs fixing and things like that. And to our First Baptist Church friends, like y'all said, y'all have always been great assets to our community, and we appreciate you. You've always stepped up and throughout the years, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Mr. Rogers.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you all for coming out, and I had the opportunity to stop by the swim meet over the weekend, so big shout out to Roger and all the folks that worked out there. I saw Corey Standiford out there working as well, and it was exciting to see, and I know it took a lot of work to pull that off because it was really something. A huge amount of people there and enjoying the facilities and bringing money into our community as well. So thanks to the city folks that made that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Ms. James.
Like they said, thanks for everybody coming out. And what he's talking about, these guys are out here, we're talking about mowing the yards and doing things. You go out here every day, these guys are out here making sure that our facilities look nice. And we really don't appreciate them enough, but we appreciate what they do in keeping these things looking good, and especially our new disc golf coming soon, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. James. Ms. Stinnett.
Want to echo everyone about the city swim meet. I was one of the grandparents who was there Saturday morning. 875 swimmers total at this meet from all over the area, and my granddaughter was swimming 9 and unders, and she did great. It ran like a dream. So guys, you're awesome. Next thing I want to talk about though is not so kind. Our homeless. I receive calls and emails each week regarding homeless veterans. If you meet someone who is a homeless veteran, please write this number down. Be ready to call. You see First Baptist crew, they're going for pens and pencils now because they help so many people. 423-893-6500, extension 26043. Again, 423-893-6500, extension 26043. This is the homeless team through the VA. If this homeless person is a veteran, these people are who they need to contact to help them out. And speaking of veterans, for the second year in a row, we will be having our Veterans Parade November the 11th. That's 11/11 at 2 o'clock. In coordination with the City of Fort Oglethorpe, the Fort Oglethorpe Veteran and Citizen Council will be hosting our annual Veterans Day Parade. Please save the date, put it on your calendars. Hope to see you all there, and I'm looking for volunteer squads. Thanks, guys. That's all, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Stinnett. Next item on the agenda is executive session. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss real estate and personnel.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Crawford and a second by Mr. Childs. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This council is in executive session. Motion by Ms. Stinnett, second by Ms. James. This council is back in session. In executive session, we discussed real estate and personnel. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rogers, second by Ms. Stinnett. This meeting is adjourned.